Everybody, Rich with Prep U down here in the bunker, one of my favorite places to hang out. And interesting video. This kind of comes off of the video 21 Dead and Counting video. I had said in that video that I would do a video about sheltering in place. All right. No electricity, no heat, no place to go. What do you do? How do you prepare for stuff like that? So that's what this video is all about. I promised it, so here it is. I have glasses here somewhere. I have no idea what I did with them. But anyhow, oh, they're right here. This subject brings up that classic question of shelter in place or bug out. All right. It really all depends on your situation, what you've got going on, what you have, what you don't have, where you can go, where you can't go, yeah, weather, road conditions, the place that you're going. I mean, do they have power? Do they have, if they have power, can they accommodate you? And what are you leaving behind? So before I get too far in, let me grab my notes so I don't miss anything, and let's talk about this. So, like I said, it brings up the classic bug out, shelter in place conundrum. All right. So let's say you're thinking like there, gosh, I need to get out of here. I need to go someplace warm. Um, so do you have a place to go? Do you have a place to stay? Can you get there? Is this an event because of an ice storm? Is this an event because of high winds and snow? Um, And either of those scenarios, when you get out and in your car, you're not very safe. You've got your car, and you could go into a ditch in the middle of nowhere, depending on where you live, and people don't know you're there. You're trying to get a hold of them. Are the cell towers working? Can you get through? Did you tell somebody you before you even left your home or your condo or townhome or whatever um, that you're heading that way? And are they expecting to find you, or are you in a place where there's no cell service? Yes, there are still places that have limited or no cell service. And was your phone charged overnight? All right. Do you have enough fuel in your car? So you got to think about that. Um, and where you're going, do they have power? Do they have the means to support you, even if they have power? Again, we talked about road conditions. And let's say you've decided to go. All right, I'm getting out of here. I'm bugging out. The heck with my, where I live and everything. It'll be fine. Everything's okay. You know, um, Another question is, do you have pets or do you have livestock you have to worry about? Okay, you have to think about that. Who's going to feed them? Who's going to take care of them? Are they going to, freeze to death? Can you take them with? That's another question. But so if you do, you are going to go, things you have to think about. You've got to shut off your water. Okay. In a home, that's easy. You just find your main shut off, you turn that off. But then you need to drain your pipes. Well, how do I drain my pipes? Well, what you do is you go starting at your lowest level, you open up, uh, after you turn the water off, open up all the valves. And say you get, in the basement, your basement bathrooms or slop sink and stuff like that, open those up and then keep going upstairs and open up all the faucets that will drain all the water out of those areas and leave them open before you go. Okay, it's what we did with our cottage up in Michigan. At the end of the season, we shut off the water down in the basement that was in an area that was underground, kept nice and above freezing, and then we would open up all the faucets and the showers and stuff like that because we didn't go there in the winter. All right, because it wasn't insulated enough to keep you going. Um, Open up your cabinet doors to the pipes leading to, say, your sink, if it's especially on an exterior wall and stuff like that. You want to make sure, if you're going to leave, that people know you are leaving and you are heading their way. You want to let your neighbors know that you won't be around so they can kind of watch your house. Maybe you have a reason that you have to, get a family member someplace where it's warm or that has electricity, or, maybe they're on oxygen or something, and you have to go. Well, let your neighbors know that you're not going to be there. Give them a key. Let them check on your house. You're also going to want to turn your heat off. I know that sounds counterproductive, that um, it's just going to, when the when the power comes back on, the heat will come on and warm the house up. But if you have a furnace system like I have, um, that it's on a battery system, thermostat's on a battery system, and maybe all furnaces are like this. I should have asked the heating and air conditioning guy this first before I made this comment. But with us, I know we have to shut it off. Otherwise, it'll run and run and run with no fan going, and it'll just keep burning gas and get hotter, hotter, hotter down there, and you're not going to get any heat anywhere else. So you want to make sure that you do that. So that's why I say, if you have to leave, if you have to have heat, you have to have electricity, because you don't have a generator, you don't have other sources to for medical reasons or whatever. Let your neighbors know. Give them a key so that when the power comes on, they can come into your house, turn your heat on, show them how to do it. They can shut off your water pipes and stuff like that, and maybe even shut the faucets off, I should say, and maybe bring the water back up at the main valve. But my choice is shelter in place. But then again, I may be different than a lot of you that are watching this, maybe one of my videos for the first time. If you've been with me for a while, you're probably going to shelter in place too, because you're going to have all the supplies. You're going to have the generator. You're going to have the extension cords. Maybe even you have a permanent generator that's hooked up to natural gas, and you have a transfer switch that it just automatically kicks in to supply your whole house, part of your house, or whatever. But you have the food, you have the stove, you have a tent, you have a sleeping bag. But you're saying, Rich, what do you need all that stuff for? Well, let's talk about that on my other notes. All right. So the first thing you're going to do when you lose power and it's going to be a while, you want to close your house up. Okay. If it's windy and it's cloudy and stuff like that, you're going to want to shut the curtains. You're going to look for drafts. You know where they are at your house. You're going to want to put towels down around doors. And then prepare to hunker down in one or two rooms, and you'd want to be interior rooms or rooms that have an alternate fuel or heat source, which could be a fireplace. Okay, and you want to base your operations out of those areas. So how do you prepare? Number one, just like you prepare for this, just like you prepare for any kind of disaster, you're going to have plenty of food. You're going to have plenty of water. Okay, water's key on what we're going to do here. You want a 3-season or better tent, a tent the size that will house the amount of people that you have in your family. If there's only the two of you, have a 2-person tent. If there's 4 of you, have a 4-person tent. If there's 2 of you and you want the dogs to sleep with you, have a 4-person or a 3-person tent. You want to have sleeping bags, and this is what I'm about to say is I do have the luxury of having all this stuff due to my love of camping, Boy Scouts for 15, 20 years now, and camping in all kinds of weather from 100 degrees down to below zero. We have the equipment, we have the bags. So when I start talking about this stuff, know that I'm coming from a camping background. Okay. So a 0-degree bag would be great to have. Extra blankets, lots of extra blankets. A generator, you're going to want to have a generator that has the output of stuff that you want to run. Camp stove, very important. Whisper light, anything like that that can boil the water to cook the food that we're going to talk about. Battery operated lanterns, flashlight, headlamps, and plenty of extra batteries. As you can see, these are just the items that you would have normally, to be prepared for all kinds of stuff. But let's talk about generators real quick. Okay, obviously the best one, and we already said this, is a direct connect generator. Generac comes to mind right off the bat. That has natural gas or propane, depending on where you live. Directly to that, and a transfer switch that it knows when the power goes off, it kicks on and then powers your house. Okay. I've never had one. I think they'd be great. I'm hoping that my next home has one. But then the transfer switch, once the power comes on, it kicks off, runs a generator a short time to cool down, and then shuts off. If you have one of those, do not poo-poo the maintenance on it. Make sure that it's maintained. Make sure that it's properly no, taken care of. The oil is set. Everything's okay around it. Be very careful where you have that. We had a house fire many, many years ago that burned the house pretty much to the ground because the people that bought the house didn't know they had an auto generator in their garage, and a car accident took out the power, which started the generator, which set all the boxes on fire because it got hot that were packed around this. They didn't know it was a generator, and it took out most of the house. So be very careful where you have it, that generator set up. Portable generators, they come in all different power ratings. It depends on what you want to run. So I just saw an episode of Life Below Zero, Next Generation, where their whole homestead is run off of two Honda generators, which is very interesting. They run constantly. They're pre-piped with fuel. So anyhow, so you want to figure out how much you want to power. Do you want to power just your furnace and a couple of freezers and a refrigerator and a couple of outlets? We'll figure out the power rating. If you don't know how to figure that out, everybody needs an electrician. Everybody needs to have one in their back pocket. You should also have an electrician in your prepper pods. And that's a great video to go back and look at about prepper pods and how to put your prepper group together. Electrician would be great. So would a paramedic. Yeah. So he can figure that out, and then you can buy the generator based on what you want to power. So you figure out how many and what ratings of power cords you need. Okay, if you don't want to have little cords, running the power to different devices and they overheat on you and melt, which we've had fires based on that too. And then you want to properly store enough fuel for those generators in a safe place, not in your house, in your garage. Um, when you buy the generator, it should tell you how much fuel it takes per hour. All right. And then base that on, if you move into an area, talk to the people around. So, do you lose power very often? When we do, it's, a couple hours. The worst has been like, 12 hours. Well, the worst around this area has been 6 days when it's really bad, heavy storms, heavy ice storms, or tornadoes and stuff like that, bad storms. So, you got to figure on that, because if you're out of power, the gas stations are out of power and they can't pump fuel. You may have to go quite a distance to get fuel to keep it running. If it's a long-term event, they're going to bring in fuel and you'll be able to access the fuel that way. But you just need it for a couple of days. You have to be self-sufficient, because even the fire department and police may not be able to get to you. You need to be self-sufficient. And then with that, you could have an electrician set up a direct connect for your furnace. That's the key. As far as your refrigerators and your freezers and stuff like that, don't bury that outlet so you can get to it, so you can get back there and unhook it and plug it into the cords that are coming from your generator so you can run that kind of stuff. That's why, having a generator is very, very important. So let's talk about now. So you're staying, all right? All that's set up, and you're protecting your food. You don't have the power to run the furnace. You don't have a direct connect or anything like that. So you're setting up in one room, and you're going to plan to use your fireplace to heat that small area where you're going to stay. Okay. Obviously, get the flue, the firebox, everything checked by a professional now. Have them come out, have them take a look at it. It could save your life, okay? Or it could save your house from burning to the ground. If the mortar in the bricks and around the firebox are compromised, and all the sparks and stuff like that go in the walls based on what kind of a fireplace you have, it could cause a problem. We had fires, multiple fires over a series of time when a builder didn't put enough airspace between the wooden structure of the chimney, go figure, and the flue. There wasn't the airspace that was needed, and over time, the wood um, carbonized and caught fire. Okay, so be very careful. Also, have a large supply of dry hardwood for burning. It'll last longer. It'll burn hotter instead of like your pulpier wood, your poplar and your birch and stuff like that. You want a good oak or a walnut to be burning. Um, Store your wood close, but not right next to the house, especially if you have a wooden structure, because no matter how well you store that wood, no matter how dry it stays, it's still going to attract bugs and rodents and stuff like that to build homes in there. And you don't want that near your house. You want it away from your house, um, so it doesn't affect your house. You also want to have a box inside, which we had at the cottage, that would store your kindling, some newspaper, fire starters, and some wood, okay, that you had brought in to stay dry and warm to get that fire going really well. Um, you can use manufactured logs too. If you've never lit a fire in your fireplace, do it now. Learn how to do it. If you've never had any idea how to start a fire in your fireplace, have somebody help you. Ask maybe a family member or a coworker at work. Invite them over. Show me how to do this. What's the best way to do this? How can I, heat my house if I need to with this fireplace? Or maybe I just want a nice, romantic evening and I want to have a fire. How do I do that? People don't realize that some of the one main thing you want to do before you really start the wood going is you want to warm that flue up. And how do you warm that flue up? Well, you take newspaper, you crumple it up into a long tube, you light it, and you just kind of hold it up above the firebox with the damper open. With the damper open, uh, you want to get the air to heat up and start rising right off the bat. So then you can start the fire. You might want to crumple up a second one, just to keep the heat, because hot air goes up. You want to get that flow going so the smoke doesn't come into your house. Okay, because that really messes up everything. And practice the fires. Okay, practice how setting the fire and having the right amount of stuff. Make sure you have a fireplace screen and you move all combustibles away from the firebox. Okay, that includes which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, of setting your tent up where you're going to sleep near or in that room that you're going to base your operations on because it's warm. All right, how to stay warm? How are you going to do that? Like I said, you're going to want to be, in one or two rooms. Uh, if you have like a three-season room or porches, you want to close those off. You don't need those rooms. Okay, you want to put like a heavy blanket over the doorway if you don't have doors. Like our porch is, we have it's a four-season porch technically because it is insulated, but it's still colder there even though we have registers out there from the furnace. So we do run a portable heater out there, which we keep everything away from it. Um, so so it maintains, but we don't have a door there. So what we would do is we would put a blanket over that, the frame of the door, to keep that coldness out of the rest of the house. You want to check doors for drafts, and that's really easy to look, because all you have to do is you can use a candle, you can use, which that's kind of dangerous, but you can just feel for it. You can just feel around for drafts and stuff like that, and you want to put towels and stuff under, at the bottom by the threshold. You can even duct tape around the edges of the door if there's a draft coming in through there. Sidebar, that is great when you go on vacation to take an extra towel and duct tape with you in case you're in an apartment somewhere on vacation and there's a fire in the building and smoke's coming in. You can duct tape around the frame of your door and then take wet towels and put them down along the bottom of the door by the threshold. It'll keep the smoke from coming in and just keep that those towels wet. A sidebar for you. So you want to place towels around the floor and use the duct tape. Want to push it down in, and then maybe put another one over the top of it. That will keep the drafts from coming in. Um, at night, close your drapes, your curtains, your blinds, and everything, and keep that cold out. But when the sun comes out, open those up. You know, get the curtains open, get the drapes open, lift up your blinds and stuff like that. Everybody has a place in their house where the sun comes in from the south, and you can just sit there nice and cozy from the sun because it's nice and warm. Where you want to allow that sun to help you warm up your house. Um, Another thing is you don't want to go outside unless you don't have to. It's kind of like the refrigerator thing. Like when you lose your power in the summertime, don't need to open your refrigerator door, or you don't need anything on the freezer. Don't keep checking to see if the light works, or don't keep in there checking to see if the food is frozen. It will stay frozen for quite a while. Okay, but you don't want to use a door that's on the windward side. You want to be on the leeward side, so that when you go out, the wind doesn't blow into your house. The cold wind um, blow in. Use the side that's sheltered from the wind, or the leeward side. All right. So that's, you want to maintain whatever heat's in your house. You got to think about this. Your house is not going to go from 72 to 15 in an hour. It's going to take a long time to do that. And in your basement areas, it may not get that cold because just like in the summertime, your basement's cooler than it is upstairs because heat rises. It's colder. It is colder in the wintertime down in the basement, but it's maintained by the temperature of the earth around you too. So don't forget about that. Um, so you're staying, temperature's starting to go down. How do you keep track of the temperature in your house and keep your pipes from freezing? Well, number one, you buy a bunch of little uh, they could be magnetic, they could be whatever, thermometers, and you can put them around different places in your house to keep track of what the temperature is. Um, you also want to keep the doors of your cabinets housing water pipes open. We talked about that before. So especially if it's on a wall, you want to, exterior wall like what our kitchen is. Uh, you want to open that cabinet up so it's not staying colder in there, getting the outside temperature, even though your house is insulated. Um, if your temperature goes below 32, and it's going to take a while, and you're going to, it could be in the 40s, and you're thinking, oh my God, my pipes are going to freeze. Well, they're not going to freeze. Oh, not yet, anyhow. You know, but once they go below 32, you want to crack the faucets just slightly so it drips a little bit of water. So there's always flowing water. Flowing water is harder to freeze. Think about a river. Okay, real hard to freeze. You can also, once you've cracked those, you can take towels. If you've got the cold water and the hot water together, wrap a towel around there. That's going to heat up, and that's going to keep the pipes warmer, the cold water warmer. Um, a slow drip, okay, especially your hot water, is slow drip. You don't need a lot because you don't want to overtax your water heater, because you may want to use, maybe a long haul, and it takes a long time to get that water going. If you want to keep, the water hot for longer durations, a very slow drip, and try not to use the water out of the water heater, for showers and baths and stuff like that. Maybe, for, you could use a little bit of it for cooking, but my suggestion is to have those camp stoves where you heat up the water, and you cook that way. um, so that's your pipes. That's how to stay warm. Watch the weather. Okay, that's what you really have to do. Continue to watch the weather. Use the sun to your advantage, and or if it's cloudy during the day and at night, cover up everything. Close your drips. Close your curtains. Keep warm that way. You can also use the cold to your advantage. Let's say it's a long duration. You don't have the generator. You aren't running your refrigerators or your furnaces. You can also, which we have a couple of videos about, having extra coolers, extra freezer packs and stuff like that. But if it's really cold outside, you could put your food in um, the coolers and put them outside for a short duration to keep them cold but not frozen. Okay. You got plenty of time. You're not going to work. The kids aren't going to school if it's that bad. So you got plenty of time to watch this stuff. Take care of that. But what kind of food should you stockpile? Basically the same kind of food you're going to stockpile anyhow. We're talking cans and pasta and freeze-dried MREs, dehydrated backpacker food, and plenty of water. Okay, you can do the gallon thing. Okay, and there is a date on water that you keep, but you can just rotate it. Water can stay inside these things for 30 days, and then you just rotate. So just keep track of when you did that last. But lots of water is important for eating and cooking and cleaning and stuff like that. So staying warm while you sleep. All right, you can use a tent to sleep in. Match the size of the number of people. It will depend on the ages, obviously, and how many dogs you want to stay in there. They'll keep you warm. Use blankets under, over, and inside the tent to keep the heat in. Sleep in sleeping bags rated for the winter camping, or double up on the spring and fall bags. That'll work out real well. You can wear long sleeve shirts, pants, winter hats, gloves, but don't overdress. You don't want to sweat in there. That's the key. Um, you may start with a lot of clothes on. You may decide, I'm starting to get a little warm. We'll get those clothes off. All right. And then depending on how vigilant you want to be with your fire and your fireplace to keep you warm, if you have one, um, you can keep your door open if you're going to stay up and keep the fire going. If you don't have a fireplace, close that door, warm up, and stay inside there. Um, when you wake up, okay, number one key, there is going to be a lot of moisture in those clothes, in your tent, and stuff like that. When you get up and get out of your sleeping bag, out of your tent, change those clothes. You don't want to be in those damp clothes. You want to start with dry clothes. So don't keep your extra clothes in your tent with you, because you're exhaling water vapor. And it's going to get in those clothes, and it's just going to be just as bad as the clothes that you were sleeping in that absorb the sweat and the moisture from sleeping. Change those. You want to get those sleeping bags out of the tent, turn them inside out, get the blankets out, air those things out. So when you go to sleep the next night, they aren't damp. All right. Have games and cards. You're not going to be able to watch TV, and uh, I suppose nowadays, with cell phones, you have solar powered rechargers, which is really good. You could have solar powered generators and batteries and stuff like that to help you, survive the thing. You also want to make sure that you keep your vehicles, like we always said, not only for this event, but for typical for the winter, keep them full, at the very least 3/4. Because if it gets really, really bad and you really need to warm up, you could always go out to your car. You may not be able to leave, but you can stay here. Make sure the snow isn't packed around the muffler, and hasn't packed around underneath the car to cause any problems. But you can go out there and warm up. Heck, we used that on a camping trip one time. It got really, really cold, and before we went to bed, we said, "Well, we're going to get warm." So we got really warm in the car, and then went to and jumped into our sleeping bags, and we were able to fall asleep, and we stayed asleep. And when we got up in the morning, it was still really cold. Fired the truck up, and we jumped in there and warmed up and changed clothes, and we were good to go. So beyond that, some of the things you also want to have besides the food and different things, we talked about a backpacking stove and extra fuel, which is really good to have. And the food to have, just as a reminder, keep it simple. All right, a lot of this stuff is just simple. You just like pastas and sauce, freeze dried or dehydrated backpacking stuff. That's why you need the stoves with the water, so that you boil the water, you just pour it in, and it's really good, except for teriyaki chicken. I say that every time we talk about backpacking food. I hate teriyaki chicken. So what you really want to keep with you, obviously, you want to have also plenty of water for drinking, food prep, cooking, and cleaning. But you can survive. You can survive the cold weather. People have been doing it for hundreds of years, thousands of years. They survived the cold. It's just, think about what you need. Just have the right amount of food. Um, it may not be days, it may just be hours, and you might get lucky and everything like that. You should be okay. But you need to think of the long haul. You may think that, well, I live in the city, it's no big deal. I can go, over here, and there's, warm weather and food and stuff like that. That's great. But most of the country aren't big cities. Most of this country is rural still. And you have to think about that. And the people that live in the rural areas, and even the far out suburbs, have to think about preparing for long-term power outages all seasons of the year. So use your brain, use this video, use other videos about being prepared for a power outage and no heat in the winter, and you will survive. You will be fine. All right. Survival of the fittest and the smartest. So thanks for watching the video. We really appreciate it. We've been having a good time doing a lot of new videos out there. Check them out. And oh, hi, Lil. Um, and thank you. And like we always say, always be aware of your surroundings. And that includes watching the weather, especially watching the weather. You know it's winter, you know it's coming. Depending on where you live, it can be anywhere from feet of snow to inches of ice and blizzard conditions. So just be prepared and have extra food around, 3 deep stockpiling. Check that video out too. Also, like we talked about in this video, have at least 72 hours or more of food to take with you if you have to bug out, if you can bug out. And you should have, at least, 6 months to a year of food for each individual in your home, plus the people that might come to your home to shelter. You should have enough food for them also, depending on what's going on. Obviously not, that doesn't really go for this video. You only need maybe a week, 2 weeks, but why stop there? Just keep going, and you just rotate the food and it never runs out. You can check all our different videos out about how long food lasts too, which is surprising. And then please prep like your life depends on it, because it really does. So thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. Take care. See you next time.